First of all, I would like to thank Avatar for giving me an opportunity to speak at this prestigious forum. So I started doing jugular punctures in 2004 during my MD days. In those days, it used to be a blind procedure. We didn't know how to use ultrasound for doing jugular punctures, and I have seen my fair share of central lines and even sometimes dialysis catheters ending up in the carotid artery. But what is surprising is that even once ultrasound became more commonly used, once in a while we do still see the central lines and the dialysis catheter ending up in the carotid artery. So my talk will focus on a few small things that we can do while doing the procedure, which will help us in avoiding the mistakes. So it is more about decreasing the risk of the procedure. The first thing that I always do is that I do a scanning of the patient's neck veins well before the actual procedure, before I am scrubbed and before the patient is draped. So this will avoid any surprises while you are actually doing the procedure. So we will look for the size of the vein, its compressibility, and its general direction of the vein. I mark 3 points on the patient's neck that will help me during the procedure. So the first point is the vein puncture site. So this is the point inside the patient's body at which the needle will be actually entering the patient's vein. Since most of my punctures are for tunneled catheters, I like to select a point which is a maximum of 2 centimeters above the clavicle, preferably around 1 centimeter. And the degree of overlap between the vein and the carotid artery is as less as possible, and between the two heads of the sternocleidomastoid. And once I get such a point, I will center it on the ultrasound field, and the center of that point is marked on the skin with the indelible marker or with a permanent marker. So this is the point inside the patient where the needle will be entering the vein. It is not the skin puncture site. As you can see here, it is not a patient's neck that I am showing, but it's a gelatin model. I think that we should all practice first on the models before doing the procedure on the patient, so that we are better, our skills are better when we do the procedure. So there is a YouTube video, home ultrasound IV model. If you search on YouTube with these keywords, you will get a video which will tell you how to make this gelatin model. And I will be showing some parts of the procedure on this model, just to emphasize the point that practice is essential. Practice on gelatin models or inanimate objects is important before we actually do the procedure on the patient. So first is that we determine the vein entry site or the vein entry site inside the patient. The second thing to determine is the skin puncture site. So this is the point on the patient's neck, on the patient's skin, where the needle will be entering into the patient. And if you look at this picture, the vein is 1.7 centimeters from the surface of the skin. If we assume that we are entering the patient at an angle of 45 degrees to the skin, or at an angle of 45 degrees to the vein, our skin entry point needs to be this distance, 1.7 centimeter from the vein entry site. So there are calculations involving tan theta and cos theta, but I will not trouble you with that. So assuming that we are entering the patient at 45 degrees, the skin entry site needs to be the same distance from the vein entry site. And as we can see, the probe that I use is around 1 centimeter in width. So this is the point that we are actually trying to mark, because this is the point from where the ultrasound beam enters the patient. So for all the points we'll be marking, we'll be using this point at the center of the probe. So the second point is 1.7 centimeters, or whatever distance the vein is from the skin. It will be that distance away from the vein entry site. And one more third point I will mark well away from these 2 points, again centering the vein on the ultrasound field and marking the point on the patient's skin. So these 3 points, once we mark, that will give us an idea of the direction of the vein. It may not exactly be a straight line because the human body is 3-dimensional, but we will get a good idea about the direction of the vein. So on this model, this is the vein entry site. This is the skin entry site. And this is the third point which we just used to get an idea about the direction of the vein. And like I said, suppose the vein is 1 centimeter deep, the ultrasound probe itself can act as a measurement scale. Or if you want to be more sure about the measurements, you can use a sterile scale. But as time goes on, you will be very comfortable using the ultrasound probe itself as the scale. And when we are administering the local anesthesia, that time itself, it can act as a guide. The local anesthesia needle or the local anesthesia administration, that step of the procedure can act as a guide, which will tell us how exactly we can manipulate the puncture needle that is about to come. So I will not go too much into depth with this, because the next step where we are using the actual puncture needle, I will be describing that in detail. And the same steps can be used while using the local anesthesia injection. So once the local anesthesia is administered, we will be puncturing the skin at the skin entry site. And the important one small adjustment that helps a lot is to first enter the skin and then place the ultrasound probe on the patient's neck. What we generally do is we first place the probe and then we enter immediately behind the ultrasound probe. So that what happens is, with that step, we get confused where the needle shaft is or where the needle tip is. So first you enter the patient's skin and then you place the probe on the patient's skin just beyond the needle, and you identify the needle tip. The most important point on the whole ultrasound is the point at which the needle tip is seen. So once the needle tip is seen, you advance the needle tip slowly under the ultrasound guidance. Either by you can just tilt the probe, or if the distance is like in this case it is 1.7 centimeters, you may need to slightly move the probe 2 or 3 millimeters and then tilt it. So once you are tilting the probe and moving the needle will always be in your field of vision. So this is what I was telling. We first enter the skin and then we place the probe, and the probe may need to be moved a little bit. And after that, we advance the needle very in millimeter steps of millimeter by millimeter and reach the top of the vein. So like it was seen there, here it is. So the first thing is to identify the tip. This is the tip. And when we are tilting the probe, it is actually the needle may, at one point, the needle will go out of the field of vision. And then we may have to tilt the ultrasound probe a little bit more. So it is basically tilting the ultrasound probe or even moving it in very small degrees and moving the needle with the other hand. So as you can see, with the tilting of the probe and with the movement of the needle, we come to the top of the vein very easily. It may look like there are a lot of steps, but the whole procedure generally takes only a few seconds. So once the needle is in the vein, this is the picture that we want to aim for. We want to aim for a picture in which the needle tip is clearly seen within the vein lumen. So once the needle tip is within the vein lumen, we need to put the guide wire. And what happens is, sometimes if we are not well prepared, then controlling the ultrasound probe becomes difficult. If you place it on the patient, sometimes it slips off the patient. So this is what I do. I use a very long sleeved probe cover, and I use a needle holder or a sponge holder to just fix the probe and the probe wire to the drape, so that I can easily place the probe on the patient and then advance the guide wire. So once this is done, the next step is to confirm the guide wire in the brachiocephalic vein. So this is also a very important part of the procedure. We need to confirm the guide wire in the venous system a little beyond the jugular vein. Or if our vein entry is on the top, maybe 2 to 3 centimeters beyond the vein entry, or if it is very close to the clavicle, like we do for tunnel catheters, we need to confirm the guide wire inside the brachiocephalic vein. Because once it is beyond that point, it is very unlikely that it has ended up in a arterial structure. So as you can see, we trace the guide wire very step by step, and we can see that it is in the brachiocephalic. This is the carotid artery, and it is in the brachiocephalic vein. Sometimes to make sure that you are actually in the vein, the compressibility and all will help, but the movement of the venous wall that is present at the junction of the jugular and the subclavian vein where the brachiocephalic is formed, this movement of the valve at venous valve at this juncture helps us in being sure that we are again in the brachiocephalic vein. So in this video, we can see the movement of the valve here. So the guide wire is definitely going very close to the valve, and it is in the brachiocephalic vein. So once you are in the brachiocephalic vein, it is safe to dilate the tract. So that confidence that you are at least on the venous side is very important before we dilate the tract. And if you are doing it under fluoroscopic guidance for a tunnel catheter, the fluoroscopy itself will give you a very good confirmation that you are on the right track. See, one ultrasound picture that is generally seen and which leads to a lot of mistakes is this picture. This looks very enticingly like a needle. So generally we think that this is a needle and this may be the tip, and they are very close to the vein. But such a picture, this is actually a acoustic shadow of the shaft. The needle or the needle tip is, we cannot say that it is near the vein just based on this picture. And generally when the catheters are misplaced, it is because of a wrong interpretation of an image like this. The needle tip is seen as a dot, and this is actually the shaft of the needle. This is not even the tip. And whenever there is a hyperechoic structure in ultrasound beam, it causes a post acoustic shadowing, just like stones or any other hyperechoic structure. So this is just the acoustic shadow of the needle. It is not the needle at all. It is not the needle tip at all. So when such an image is seen, the needle tip is generally beyond where the ultrasound probe is placed. So you need to move the ultrasound probe a little towards the patient's leg, or little caudally when you see an image like this. When such an image is seen and you feel that this is the needle, it is a time to stop and then reassess what you are doing. And generally you need to take the probe a little further to visualize the needle. So again, there is a very helpful YouTube video, and there is one article by Dr. Tadashi Kamata from Japan, ultrasound guided cannulation of hemodialysis access. I recommend that everybody watch this video and read this article. This whatever I am telling in this lecture is mainly about the jugular vein. So this image which is not of which is dangerous when we are doing the jugular puncture is actually very helpful when we are doing the femoral puncture. So all that so when we are doing a femoral puncture, there are other considerations because of its depth and because of the because the subcutaneous tissue is not very friendly in the femoral area. So to know more about it, you can please watch this video and also read this article. So some tips to get the jugular puncture right, because this is one step where I have seen the most number of accidents, and it is not very difficult to become good at this and decrease the risk of the procedure to the patient. So the first important thing is to practice. I think whatever has been shown, if you are not very familiar with this, then doing it directly on a patient may be a little difficult, because we have to develop a little bit of coordination between the two hands and taking the markings and all that. So at least 40 to 50 punctures on a model which I showed, it will help you in getting those skills. And at any given point of time, we should move either the probe or the needle. This was a beginner's mistake that I used to do when I was doing the procedure initially, and many of us do. And we move both the probe and the needle. When we are doing both the movements at the same time, it becomes very difficult to judge the location of the needle or even the shaft, any of those things. We must develop that sixth sense, or the proper sense, which will make us know the position of the needle tip at all points of time. And we should develop that muscular memory, is what I can call it, and that will come only with practice. Again, we should try to hold the probe with non-dominant hand and the needle with the dominant hand. We should try to minimize the. It is very difficult to do catheter without at least one other person who is well scrubbed, who is scrubbed sterile. So tunnel catheters, sometimes we can maybe do it with temporary catheters. We may be able to pull it off. So it is always better to practice on your own how to hold the probe with the one non-dominant hand and move the needle with the dominant hand. And always the movements should be very small and sure movements. The large movements, again, because we are working in which very small dimensions, 1 centimeter, 1.5 centimeters max. So if our movements are very large, we will not get that control over the procedure. Using proper equipment, again, is one thing. I think we should try to avoid the doing a lot of jugaad while doing center line puncture. I draw a line at using a glove as a probe cover. I don't accept using the glove as a probe cover, because it makes it very difficult to keep the field sterile. So we should have the equipment that is needed, that we are comfortable with while doing the procedure, and make it a drill for everyone, not just for the consultants, also for the students, residents, nurses. Everybody should spend some time and make it like one drill, so that so that the procedure can be done without too much of a hassle and without too much of disturbance. So this is what I had to tell about getting the jugular puncture right. Thank you all for giving me this time. Thank you.